My dear brothers and sisters, there comes a moment in life when you are tired. Tired of explaining yourself, tired of defending your intentions, tired of proving your innocence, tired of fighting battles that drain your heart more than your body. And you wonder, how much more can I take? That is exactly the moment when Allah says to you, step back, I will handle this. When Allah fights your battles for you, things happen in ways no human strategy could ever achieve. You see, we often think strength means shouting louder, responding faster, proving harder. But in the sight of Allah, real strength is sabr. Real power is tawakkul, and real victory is trusting Allah even when your heart is trembling. There were people before you who were slandered, betrayed, abandoned and oppressed. They cried at night when no one saw them. They raised their hands when their backs were against the wall. And Allah did not fail them, not once. Sometimes Allah removes people from your life, not because you are wrong, but because they were blocking blessings you never even knew were written for you. Sometimes Allah allows lies to spread because truth does not need noise, it needs time. Be careful, not every door that closes is rejection. Some doors close because Allah is protecting you from what your heart was begging for, but your soul could not survive. When Allah fights your battles, He does not need your anger. He does not need your revenge. He does not need your sleepless nights plotting responses. He only needs your sincerity, your patience and your dua. There are battles you never even knew you were saved from. There are tears that were prevented before they ever fell. There are traps that collapsed before you stepped into them. All because Allah was already working behind the scenes. And let me tell you something comforting. No injustice escapes Allah. Not the words whispered behind your back. Not the betrayal hidden behind smiles. Not the pain you were told to just forget. Allah delays, but He never ignores. So when you feel overwhelmed, say, Ya Allah, I hand this over to you. And when you do that sincerely, something remarkable happens. Your heart finds peace even before the situation changes. Because when Allah fights your battles, you may lose people, but you gain tranquility. You may lose arguments, but you gain Jannah. You may lose control, but you gain Allah. And what could be greater than that? So walk gently, speak kindly, pray deeply, trust completely. Because if Allah is defending you, who in the world can defeat you? May Allah fight the battles we are too weak to fight. Heal the hearts we struggle to protect, and grant us peace that no storm can shake. Ameen. There are moments in life when the silence around you feels heavier than noise, when the absence of support hurts more than open opposition. People you trusted step away, friends grow distant, family may not understand, and suddenly you feel as though you are standing alone in the middle of a storm. It is in these moments that the heart whispers a painful question, am I truly alone? And the answer from the heavens is gentle yet powerful. You were never alone, not for a single breath, not for a single heartbeat, not for a single tear that fell unnoticed by the world. When Allah is with you, loneliness becomes an illusion. You may not see the help immediately, you may not feel it the way you expect, but divine presence is not measured by noise or crowds. Allah's closeness is not dependent on how many people stand beside you. It is measured by how deeply you turn to Him when everyone else turns away. Sometimes Allah removes human support so that your heart learns to lean only on Him. What feels like abandonment is often an invitation to discover a level of reliance that transforms fear into calm and weakness into quiet strength. You see, people leave for many reasons. Some leave because they never intended to stay. Some leave because their benefit from you has ended. Some leave because Allah Himself removed them, knowing that their presence would harm you in ways you could not yet see. And when they go, the emptiness they leave behind feels unbearable. But that space was never meant to remain empty. It was meant to be filled with certainty that Allah alone is sufficient. When Allah is with you, help comes from directions you never imagined. Doors open without effort. Hearts soften without explanation. And solutions appear at the exact moment you thought it was too late. Not because you were strong, but because you trusted the one who is all-powerful. Sometimes Allah supports you by giving you ease, and sometimes He supports you by giving you endurance. Both are forms of divine help, even if one feels heavier than the other. There will be days when your dua feels like a whisper lost in the sky, when answers seem delayed and relief feels distant. But understand this, delay is not denial and silence is not absence. Allah hears the dua you could not put into words. He understands the pain you smile through. He knows the battles you fight in your mind while the world sees nothing but calm. And when Allah knows you are already cared for. Many of the strongest believers were those who stood alone before they were supported by nations, who were rejected before they were honored, who were tested before they were elevated. Their strength was not in numbers, wealth, or influence. Their strength was in certainty. Certainty that if Allah is with you, nothing else truly matters. And if Allah is against you, nothing else can save you. So when the world makes you feel small, remember who created you. When voices rise against you, remember who hears you. When doors close and paths disappear, remember who controls every key and every direction. Walk forward even when your knees tremble. Speak truth even when your voice shakes, and hold on to hope even when it feels fragile. Because the one who is with you is greater than every fear ahead of you. And one day you will look back at the moment you thought you were alone and realize that it was the moment Allah carried you the closest. There are times when your heart burns with the need to respond, to explain yourself, to defend your name, to set the record straight. Every instinct within you tells you that silence is weakness and patience is loss. Yet faith teaches us something profoundly different. It teaches us that not every battle is won with words, not every attack deserves an answer, and not every provocation requires a reaction. Sometimes the strongest response is restraint, and the most powerful weapon you possess is sabr, combined with complete trust in Allah. Silence is not surrender. Silence, when chosen for the sake of Allah, is discipline. It is the ability to control your tongue when your heart is screaming to speak. It is knowing that words once released cannot be taken back, and that many fires are fueled not by truth, but by reaction. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you are not allowing falsehood to win. You are allowing Allah to speak on your behalf. And when Allah speaks, He does not need volume, witnesses, or explanations. His justice arrives precisely and undeniably. Sabr is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It is waking up every day with a heavy heart and still choosing not to become bitter. It is carrying pain without let it poison your character. It is trusting that the test has meaning even when the lesson is not yet clear. Sabr means you continue to pray even when you feel undeserving, continue to do good even when goodness is not returned, and continue to hope even when the situation seems unchanged. Every moment of patience is recorded, valued, and rewarded even when the world sees nothing but delay. Tawakkul is what turns silence and patience into power. It is the firm belief that outcomes are not in your hands, and that this is not a loss but a relief. When you place your trust in Allah, you release yourself from the burden of control. You stop trying to manage how people perceive you, how situations unfold, and how justice should be delivered. You acknowledge that Allah sees the full picture while you only see fragments, and that His plan is guided by wisdom beyond emotion. There are battles that drain you because they were never meant to be fought by you. Allah does not ask you to carry what He has promised to handle. When you insist on fighting every accusation, every insult, every misunderstanding, you exhaust your heart and distract yourself from what truly matters. But when you step back and say, Allah is enough for me, something remarkable happens. The weight begins to lift, the noise fades, the urgency to react dissolves. You find peace even before the problem disappears. Many times, silence protects you from saying something you would regret. Patience protects you from making a decision rooted in anger. And tawakkul protects you from despair when results are delayed. Together, they form a shield that guards your faith and preserves your dignity. People may misunderstand your quietness. They may assume weakness where there is strength, fear where there is trust. Let them. Allah knows the truth of your heart, and that knowledge is enough. In the end, those who rush to react often regret their haste, while those who trusted Allah look back with peace. Because when you choose silence over chaos, sabr over rage, and tawakkul over anxiety, you are not losing ground. You are allowing Allah to take control of a battle that was never yours to begin with. One of the hardest realities for the human heart to accept is that it does not see the full picture. We judge moments by how they feel, events by how they appear, and outcomes by whether they match our expectations. When something falls apart, when a plan fails, when a door we prayed for closes, we quickly label it as loss. Yet faith gently reminds us that our vision is limited, while Allah's knowledge is complete. What you see as an ending may in fact be protection, unfolding in a form you did not recognize. There are things you begged Allah for with sincerity and tears, believing with all your heart that they would bring you happiness. When they did not come, or when they were taken away, the pain felt unbearable. You questioned yourself, your worth, and even your dua. But Allah was not ignoring you. He was shielding you. He was removing from your path something that looked beautiful on the surface, but carried harm beneath it. Harm your heart was too hopeful to detect, and your mind was too attached to imagine. Allah knows the intentions of people before they reveal them, the outcomes of paths before you step onto them, and the consequences of choices before you make them. You only see the present moment. Allah sees the entire journey. Sometimes He allows disappointment to enter your life, not to break you, but to redirect you. What feels like rejection may actually be redirection towards something safer, purer, and more aligned with what your soul needs to grow. There are losses that save you from far greater losses. There are delays that protect you from rushed decisions. There are endings that prevent a lifetime of regret. But because you cannot see what was going to happen, you mourn what you think you lost. Faith is learning to trust Allah even when the wisdom is hidden. It is believing that if Allah removed something, He did so with mercy, even if the mercy was wrapped in pain. At times Allah tests you not by taking something away, but by leaving you in uncertainty. You do not know why the situation remains unresolved, why clarity has not arrived, why relief feels postponed. Yet even this uncertainty carries wisdom. It teaches humility, patience, and reliance. It strips away arrogance and reminds the heart that it is not in control. And in that surrender, the believer grows closer to Allah than comfort ever could. There will come a day when you look back and realize that had things gone the way you wanted, you would have been harmed in ways you could not have survived. You will see that the relationship you cried over would have broken you. The opportunity you lost would have consumed you. The path you were desperate to walk would have led you away from peace. And in that moment of clarity, gratitude will replace grief. Until that day arrives, you are asked to trust without seeing, to believe without proof, and to remain patient without explanation. This is not easy. It requires a heart anchored in faith rather than outcomes. It requires understanding that Allah's plan is not built around your comfort, but around your ultimate good. So when life confuses you, when events do not make sense, remind yourself that Allah sees what you cannot see. Remind yourself that His knowledge is not delayed, His wisdom is not flawed, and His mercy is not absent. Walk forward with trust, even when the road is unclear, because the one guiding you knows every turn ahead, and He will never lead you somewhere that is not best for you, even if it takes time for your heart to understand it. There comes a point in every believer's life when exhaustion is not physical but spiritual, when you realize that no matter how much you plan, push, or worry, things are simply not moving the way you want them to. You try harder, think longer, replay conversations in your head, imagine different outcomes, and still the weight remains. That is often the moment Allah is gently teaching you a profound lesson. You were never meant to carry everything on your own. When you step back, Allah steps in, and what feels like loss of control becomes the beginning of true relief. We grow up believing that strength means holding everything together, managing every detail, and making sure nothing falls apart. But faith teaches us that this kind of control is an illusion. You can lock every door and still not control who enters your life. You can plan every step and still not decide where the road ends. When you finally admit, I cannot do this anymore, is not failure, it is honesty. And Allah loves honesty that comes from humility. Surrendering to Allah does not mean you stop trying or become careless. It means you do your part sincerely and then release the outcome completely. You tie your camel, but you do not sit beside it all night in fear. You take action, but you do not let your heart be chained to results. This is where peace lives. The moment you hand over what is beyond your control, your heart breathes again. Many people fear surrender because they think it means things will fall apart. In reality, things begin to fall into place. You may not see it immediately, but Allah starts arranging what you were forcing. He opens doors you kept pushing in the wrong direction. He closes paths that were quietly draining you. He removes burdens you thought you needed but were slowly breaking you. And He does all this not when you demand it, but when you trust Him enough to let go. There is something incredibly powerful about saying, Ya Allah, I have done what I can. The rest is in your hands. That statement carries humility, faith, and courage all at once. It acknowledges your limits while affirming Allah's perfection. And when Allah takes over, He does not work with anxiety or haste. He works with wisdom, timing, and mercy. Often Allah waits for you to step back because as long as you are trying to control everything, your heart has no space to rely on Him. You may pray, but deep down you are still gripping the outcome. True tawakkul begins when you loosen that grip, when you stop replaying worst case scenarios, when you stop chasing closure from people, when you stop forcing answers that are not meant to come yet. When you step back, Allah also teaches you patience. You learn that not every problem needs an immediate solution, and not every delay is a punishment. Some things are unfolding slowly because they need time to grow properly. Some answers are postponed because your heart is still being prepared to receive them. And some doors remain closed because what lies behind them is not ready to be handled by you yet. In stepping back, you discover something beautiful. Allah was never asking you to carry the burden alone. He was waiting for you to trust Him with it. And once you do, even if the situation remains unchanged for a while, your heart changes. Fear softens, anxiety loosens its grip, and peace settles in. Not because everything is fixed, but because you finally placed it in the hands of the one who never fails. There is a deep comfort in knowing that injustice is never permanent, even when it feels overwhelming in the moment. When you are wronged, when your patience is tested by cruelty, lies, or betrayal, the pain is not just in what happened, but in the fear that it might never be corrected. You watch people walk away unaccountable, smiling as though nothing happened, while you are left carrying wounds no one else sees. And in that darkness, faith whispers a truth that steadies the heart. Oppression has an expiry date. Allah does not ignore injustice. He sees it in its smallest form, in a tone of disrespect, in a stolen right, in a tear wiped away in secret. Nothing is too minor to escape His knowledge, and nothing is too great for His justice. What confuses us is not whether Allah knows, but why He allows it to continue for a time. We mistake delay for neglect, forgetting that Allah's timing is never rushed and never careless. He allows space not because the oppressor is safe, but because the lesson, the consequence, and the wisdom are unfolding in ways beyond our perception. Sometimes Allah delays justice to give the oppressor a chance to return, to repent, to correct themselves before accountability arrives. Other times, He delays it to elevate the oppressed, to purify their sins, to raise their rank, and to grant them a reward far greater than what was taken from them. What looks like endurance is often elevation in disguise. What feels like silence is often preparation. Every form of oppression carries its own countdown. It may end in this life or the next, but it will end. Power fades, influence collapses, lies unravel, and even if none of that happens before death, there is a day where no status, no excuses, and no witnesses are needed. Only truth. On that day, every injustice will be weighed with perfect fairness, and every tear will be accounted for. This knowledge is not meant to make you bitter or obsessed with revenge. It is meant to free your heart. You are not required to carry hatred to survive injustice. You are not asked to poison your soul while waiting for fairness. Allah does not need your anger to deliver justice. He only asks you to remain upright, patient, and conscious of Him. Your dignity and restraint is itself a form of victory. There is also wisdom in how Allah brings justice. Sometimes He removes the oppressor from your life entirely. Sometimes He exposes them. Sometimes He humbles them. And sometimes He leaves them exactly where they are, but replaces what they took from you with something far better. Justice does not always look the way you imagine, but it always arrives in the form that best serves your ultimate good. When you believe that oppression has an expiry date, you stop rushing outcomes. You stop trying to force closure. You stop measuring fairness by speed. Instead, you focus on protecting your heart, your faith, and your character. You understand that temporary suffering does not define your worth, and temporary power does not guarantee safety. So when injustice weighs heavy on your chest, remind yourself that Allah is Al-Adil, the perfectly just. Remind yourself that no wrong is forgotten and no right is lost. Walk forward with patience, not because the pain is small, but because Allah is greater. And trust that when the time comes, justice will arrive with a precision and depth that only the Creator of all hearts can deliver. We often imagine victory in very narrow terms. We think winning means proving someone wrong, coming out on top, being seen, applauded, or vindicated in front of those who hurt us. We picture victory as a visible triumph that satisfies the ego and silences every critic. But Allah's definition of victory is far more expansive, far more merciful, and far more aligned with the well-being of your soul. When Allah grants victory, He gives it in the form that is best for you, not necessarily the form you asked for. Sometimes you think you lost because you walked away, because the argument ended without resolution, because the relationship ended without closure, because the door closed before you were ready. It feels like defeat. It feels unfinished. But what if that exit was the victory? What if Allah saved you by removing you from a place that would have slowly drained your faith, your peace, and your sense of self? Not every win looks like standing tall at the end of a battle. Sometimes the greatest win is being spared the battle altogether. There are victories that come quietly. You wake up one day and realize the pain no longer controls you. You remember the injustice, but it no longer defines you. You see the faces of those who wronged you, and your heart no longer burns with anger. That healing is a victory. That peace is a victory. The ability to move forward without carrying bitterness is something no enemy can take from you and no argument can give you. Allah knows that some things you wanted to win would have cost you too much. You might have won the argument but lost your character. You might have prove and your point but lost your humility. You might have stayed in a place that validated you but slowly pulled you away from Allah. So Allah in His mercy chooses a different form of victory. He chooses to protect your heart rather than inflate your ego. He chooses to preserve your faith rather than satisfy your pride. There are times when Allah grants victory by replacing what was taken from you. You lose a person, but you gain clarity. You lose an opportunity, but you gain direction. You lose control, but you gain trust in Allah. At first, the loss overshadows everything else. But with time, you realize that what you gained was more valuable than what you lost. This is not coincidence. This is divine compensation. Victory may also come as growth. You emerge from a trial wiser, calmer, more grounded, more aware of your dependence on Allah. You no longer seek validation from the same places. You no longer react the same way. You no longer break at the same points. That transformation is a form of success that cannot be measured by worldly standards, yet it reshapes your entire life. Even when victory is delayed to the next life, it is not diminished. If Allah allows someone to wrong you without immediate consequence, it does not mean they escaped. It means your reward is being preserved in a place where nothing is lost and nothing is forgotten. That eternal victory outweighs every temporary win this world could offer. So when life doesn't unfold the way you hoped, resist the urge to label it failure too quickly. Ask yourself instead what Allah might be protecting you from, what He might be teaching you, and what He might be preparing you for. Trust that if Allah chose this outcome, then within it lies a form of victory that your heart will one day understand. Because when Allah grants victory, it is never empty, never cruel, and never wasted. It always arrives carrying mercy, even if it takes time for you to recognize it. So as we bring this reminder to a close, remember this: life will test you in ways that exhaust your strength, confuse your heart, and challenge your patience. You will face moments when you feel alone, moments when silence is your only option, moments when loss feels heavier than hope, and moments when injustice seems unchecked. But in every one of those moments, Allah is present, aware, and in complete control. When you stop fighting with anger and start trusting with sincerity, Allah fights your battles in ways no human effort ever could. He protects you when you do not see the danger. He strengthens you when you feel weak, and He grants you victory in forms your heart may not immediately recognize. Nothing you endure is wasted. No tear is unseen, and no act of patience goes unrewarded. So leave with this certainty, settled deep within you. If Allah is with you, you are never defeated. Place your worries in His hands. Walk forward with faith, and allow your heart to rest in the knowledge that the one who controls every outcome is also the most merciful. And when Allah fights your battles for you, the result is always peace, always wisdom, and always goodness, here or in the life to come. Thank you, everyone.